Disclaimer. Please note that this episode contains depictions of violence that some people may find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the speakers, commenters, experts, and/or hosts. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the channel's policy or the views held by this channel or broadcaster. The broadcaster or its channel cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Night Crew with Katie and Drew. We are finally on episode 10, and today will probably be one of our longer podcasts because we are discussing the Appalachian Mountains, and there's a lot to unpack with this. Like, a lot of theories, stories, haunted stories, ghost stories. There's so much to unpack here.
We've also been pretty busy recently.
Yes.
As I started a new job, and we just had a lot going on the past couple weekends. So we've been trying to get these stories done and then do other stuff, I guess you could say, around the house and out and about. So we apologize for the delay on some episodes, but we're trying here. So
we are back with a great episode ahead of us. Appalachian Mountains. I kind of have a personal story about the Appalachian Mountains. I think, do you have a personal story?
No, I do not. No.
Okay. I couldn't remember if you've been there or not. Either way, we'll get to that eventually. So, the Appalachian Mountains. This is a little history lesson. It's very short and sweet. But either way, the mountains were formed 500 million years ago, being among the oldest mountain ranges on Earth. And the Appalachian Mountains run throughout the Great Smoky Mountains, and they encompass 7 southern U.S. states. And with that being said, there's numerous folk stories about the mountains that we will discuss first. Stories, theories, conspiracies, etc.
So, here is a story. It's called the Brown Mountain Lights. In 1922, the U.S. Ecological Society investigated the Brown Mountain Lights and originally thought the lights were lights of passing trains or car headlights. However, after a massive flood wiped out all the tracks and roads, these lights still appeared. The most common story is told by mostly Native Americans in the area who said that the battle between the Catawba and Cherokee tribes, I'm sorry if I butchered that, led to widows, mothers, and sisters searching for their loved ones with torches throughout the mountains. They say the lights are the spirits of the Cherokee women who are still searching. Now, scientific theories claim that there's natural gases on the mountain, or it's ball lightning. The lights can be seen regularly in North Carolina, especially between September and November.
Which, we never saw those lights when we lived in North Carolina, but then again, we were in the city.
Yeah,
so.
We never saw nothing. We just saw some crazy people. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. But either way, the next one, a lot of people have heard about this one, the Mothman, the famous statue, the famous story. So, a little background. In 1966, something strange occurred in West Virginia and Ohio. 2 couples drove past an abandoned World War II TNT factory and saw a huge, man-like bird with glowing red eyes flying close to their car. They stated the creature had a 10-foot wingspan and the car couldn't outrace the creature. After arriving in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the couples reported the occurrence to the police. Newspapers heard of this event and named the creature Mothman. Over the next year, residents saw the Mothman 8 more times, UFO sightings increased, and suspicious men in black were spotted in the hills. I don't know what that has to do with anything. The occurrences continued until December 15, 1967, when the Silver Bridge, which connected West Virginia to Ohio, collapsed during rush hour traffic. 46 people died during this event, and some claim to have seen the Mothman at the scene. Today in Point Pleasant, they have a Mothman Museum, a Mothman Festival in the fall, and then that infamous statue people always see in West Virginia as well.
Yeah. I will say, when people say that they saw the Mothman, it's usually like a bad omen before something bad happens. There was a story that I heard a long time ago about this woman. Can't remember where it was from, but she said she saw the Mothman right between dusk. So she was like, okay, well, I don't know if I actually saw the Mothman or I thought I saw him. But anyways, once that happened, her grandma actually passed away. Not even 24 hours after that.
Well, and yeah, like the bridge story. The bridge story, I mean, right before the bridge collapsed, it was just a bad omen for everyone. All those people died. So, I mean...
So, on to our next story, the Bell Witch. Now, the Bell family moved to Tennessee around the 19th century. After a decade of living there, they began experiencing some knockings, scratchings, and dragging of things across the floor. Also, the Bell's daughters complained of something pinching them and pulling on their sheets as they slept. Very weird. But John Bell, the father, confided in his friends, James Johnson, and after staying the night there, the rumor spread of a poltergeist. Due to the large amount of attention that it got, the poltergeist began speaking and claimed it was the spirit of a local witch named Kate Batts. Kate sang hymns, argued religion, and recited 2 sermons word for word while they were being told in another church 13 miles away. That's kind of crazy, though.
Right,
That's kind of crazy.
right.
After John Bell passed away in 1820, the Bell Witch claimed to have poisoned him. She disappeared and reappeared to the family several times to convince the Bell's daughters to not marry and to speak with the Bell's son. After her final departure in 1828, the entity said she would return to haunt the Bell descendants in 1935. It's unknown whether their descendants were haunted by the Bell Witch or not.
I wonder how Kate Batts died. I didn't really look into that much, but I wonder why she chose the Bell family out of everyone to harass, pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It is. Either way, a legend. And another one, the Moon-Eyed People. Another Cherokee legend discusses the Moon-Eyed People, who were another race of humans.
I've heard of these before, the Moon-Eyed People. There's a couple stories out there on Reddit about these guys. I don't know if it's made up or not, but most of the stories that we get from this podcast are from Reddit. I mean, you could take that as they will, but it's up to you.
Either way, these are conspiracies and legends, so who knows if they're real or not. But the Moon-Eyed People, they appeared differently from the rest of the tribe, the Cherokee tribe. They were small, bearded, had huge blue eyes and very white skin. According to the legend, they were nocturnal humans since their eyes were sensitive to any light and could only see after dark. The Cherokee believe they built large stone fortifications against the Creek Nation, but after being defeated, they fled to the caves throughout North Carolina and northern Georgia. The most compelling evidence found of these people was a 3-foot-tall statue found at the connection of the Hiwassee and Valley Rivers in the 19th century, which is on display at the Cherokee County Historical Museum in Murphy, North Carolina. And, like, if you look up pictures, they're so tiny. They're so short and tiny.
Yeah, they're freaky.
Yeah.
Freaky.
Like, hollowed out eyes.
But the next story we have is the Flatwoods Monster. So, on September 12th, 1952, 4 boys were playing in a field at Flatwoods Elementary School in Virginia. Before dusk, the boys saw a flying object crash into the hillside of a local farm. And of course, these boys ran to the crash site and saw a pulsing red light. Now, one of these boys shined a flashlight towards it, and revealed a 10-foot tall creature with a spade-shaped looking head and glowing orange eyes. The creature's hands were taloned and it was wearing a dark metallic dress. As they stared at the creature, a mist hung in the air as the creature levitated off the ground, hissed at them, and started to glide towards them. As soon as it got closer, the group fled to the police department. Despite vomiting, nausea, and throat irritation, the police investigated the crash site and found.
So I definitely think
That's creepy.
There's definitely aliens in the mountains.
No, I believe so.
Sure.
Yeah, 100%.
That's for sure. All right, the next one, the Wampus cat. So this cat is a feline creature with 6 legs and glowing yellow eyes. The most well-known story tells of a Cherokee woman who is curious about the pre-hunting rituals that her husband and other warriors conducted before heading into the woods. Since she wasn't allowed to see the ritual, she disguised herself in the skin of a cougar and hid behind a rock while they performed the ceremony. Unfortunately, she was caught, and the shaman cursed her by changing her into a human-cougar hybrid. She is said to roam the Appalachia alone, wreaking havoc against other animals and scaring humans. Another story of the cat states that a village woman named Running Deer wore the mask of the Wampus cat and face. Some say it's a protective spirit that watches over her home. I mean, no doubt there's probably some big-ass cat in the mountains.
It's probably, yeah, but mostly mountain lions.
Yeah.
Realistically,
yeah.
But now, if you want to talk about spiritually and all these
other
legends and monsters,
yeah.
Maybe.
Literally.
So obviously we know there's Bigfoot in the Appalachian Mountains. And many indigenous cultures have told the legend of, the 8 to 12 foot creature covered in dark brown and black fur. And in 1958 in California, a bulldozer operator came across a set of large human-like footprints in the Six Rivers National Forest. Upon telling his coworkers what he witnessed, they stated they made similar discoveries. He then decided to contact his local newspaper about these findings, and the story spread like wildfire. There have been big Bigfoot sightings in New York all the way down to the Blue Ridge Mountains of northern Georgia.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Yeah, of course. I think they're out there. I think they're just too smart for us to. I think they hide and they come out during the night. It's the easiest way to move around without getting seen.
Yeah, they could be nocturnal. They're not human at all. They're just some creature that people are very curious about. Yeah, they're huge and they can walk and.
A big ape is what they are.
Big ape.
In my opinion.
Oh yeah, mine too. So, the next one is a pretty common one. The Wendigo. Ugh, I don't even like saying it right now.
The Wendigo.
It's almost nighttime, so. Anyways, they are evil spirits / creatures that are about 15 feet tall, thin, and with skin pulled so tight that one can see its bones. Many native folklore state it's a spirit of gluttony, greed, and insatiable hunger. It's a flesh-eating beast that's most active in the colder months, and its presence is easily smelt and felt. The creature smells of rotting decay and catches its prey by using a mimicry skill. It mimics human voices, loved ones, and screams. And it whistles, doesn't it? Is that what it whistles?
Well, sometimes it does. Skinwalkers mostly whistle.
Oh, right. I'm getting them confused. Is the Wendigo's not the one with antlers? Or is that...
No, it is.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's like that movie we watched with it. Okay.
Yeah, the Wendigo, only way to kill these things is with fire or silver. Fire or silver works for both skinwalkers and Wendigos. I know a lot of the, speculation is that silver can't hurt Wendigos, and it can. Silver hurts all evil things. It can kill a Wendigo, just like fire can kill a Wendigo. Now, skinwalkers, you can only kill them with silver, not fire. Fire can't kill them. Obviously, shotguns and any sort of guns will hurt these creatures and scare them off a little bit, but it won't kill them.
Yeah.
But If you have silver bullets or a Molotov, you're pretty much good to go.
I'm surprised they didn't mention any skinwalker legends anywhere, like on these websites I was looking at.
You can find so
Gotta
many
say.
Skinwalker and Wendigo legends on Reddit. They're everywhere. I know people myself who's dealt with these things. I've had an experience with a creature, I'd like to say, like this. So,
and at our house, the whistling outside.
yeah. So
and the
also
knocking.
we also are dealing with an issue here where there was a very bad storm about 2 weeks ago, and there was a whistling right outside our house, and we sleep upstairs, and I could hear this whistle over a thundering storm. It was raining hard as hell, and I heard this whistle over that storm. And then maybe a month before that, we heard coyotes or something right outside of our house again. And now sometimes we get knocking and banging on the outside of our house.
At like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
2 to 3 a.m. is usually when it happens.
And the only reason I'm saying that I know this is happening is because we have a dog named Wanda, and she barks and wakes up because of these sounds and the noises. And like, I know I'm not going crazy. It's happening.
Yeah.
If I'm not the only one experiencing this, yeah, then it's real. So
yeah,
if we have anything else to report, we will. But as of right now, it's been quiet so far. So
far, it was bad, and now it's not as bad. Usually, Wanda looks at the woods because she knows something's in there. We live right next to the woods. It's literally right behind our house. So she's kind of our, well, I'm not going to say protector, but our alarm.
yeah, alarm's better word for it. But anyways, I do have silver in this house. I have silver, so, and you can make fire with anything. So
yes, you can. But the Wendigo, also another thing about it, it said that the Wendigo spirit can possess other humans and fill them with greed, turning them into Wendigos too.
It's usually with pretty much Wendigos are cannibals.
Yeah.
They can pass the spirit on to somebody that they cannibalize, but usually they stick with one person that they took over, I guess, turn them into a cannibal, and they stay with them until they die. Most of the time, or something kills them. So usually they can't die from natural causes like we can. They're basically immortal until something kills it.
Wonderful. So they basically they mimic people.
Yeah,
the
so
skinwalkers whistle.
They will, let's say I'm not here and you're here by yourself. You could hear my voice outside in the middle of the night.
Oh, hell no.
The only thing is, it's not me. As if, one, my personality. Two, obviously I'm not going to be talking to you outside, right?
Yeah.
And usually they get more aggressive over the night because they want you to come outside. They try to convince you. They change their voices. They try doing everything they can. They'll even try to draw Wanda out so you have to go out there and get her just so they can get you.
Not my baby girl.
They're smart. They're smart.
Ooh, spooky.
Smart creatures is what they are.
They are.
Anyways, our next story is Spearfinger, which I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, me either.
But Spearfinger is a Cherokee legend of a shape-shifting stone-skinned witch with a long knife in place of one of her fingers. She's described as an old woman, which she would take the form of to convince young children that she is their grandmother. She would sit with them, brush their hair, and wait for them to fall asleep to kill them. That's kind of fucked up.
I know, right?
It's said she loved human livers and would extract them from the bodies, but also would leave no visible scars on her victims. She carried her own heart in her hand to protect it, since it was her one and only weakness. Though she has been destroyed, one can hear her songs and cackles throughout the mountains. I'm just saying, whoever destroyed and killed her has, dad lore like crazy.
Literally. But it's so weird. A lot of these are Native American or Cherokee legends.
That's usually where, Wendigos, Skinwalkers, Bigfoots, they all usually come from the Indians.
Oh, I believe them. They are
No,
one with nature. I believe them
here's
fully.
I've always heard. I heard one of my friends. He was part Indian, and he told me this. He said that every story may seem out of touch or maybe not even real, but every story has a baseline to it that's real.
Yeah.
Every story has something in that story that is real and that
Mhm.
actually happened. So keep that in mind when you hear stories.
I mean, why would they make it up? If they've seen it, they've heard about it, like their ancestors. I mean,
Yeah.
whew, ugh, spooky. Speaking of spooky, next we are going to discuss some of the most haunted places in the Appalachians. Obviously, most of the mountains I feel like are haunted or just have a negative energy, I would say, but these are some of them. So we'll start off with MacArthur, Ohio, or it used to be called Moonville. It was populated by mining families and railroad workers in the 1800s, but there weren't more than 100 residents in this area. More than 20 people died from falling off the suspended stretch over Raccoon Creek, and more were killed in head-on train collisions. Since the 1940s, the town has been abandoned and the Moonville Tunnel is said to be haunted. Its most notorious spirit is a brakeman who carries a lantern as he lurks the tunnel's dark depths. Some report they see the ghost of a town bully standing on top of the tunnel as well.
So our next place in the Appalachian Mountains that is haunted is Petros, Tennessee.
Woo!
Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. Jeez.
Penitentiary.
Yeah, that was Tennessee's first maximum security prison. In 1977, Dr. MLK Jr.'s assassin jumped a fence with 6 other inmates and remained at large for 2.5 days. They found him hiding under a pile of leaves 8 miles from the prison. In 2009, the building closed and reopened for public tours and paranormal investigations.
And with that, I've been trying to take Drew here. I've been to this place before in Tennessee. Man, tell you what, you need to go there and tour it. It's a really cool place. But I'd say the most creepy part was the basement, because they would put really bad people down there and a lot of them would die or be tortured. So, I mean, that place is very haunted, very old, but it is something to put on your bucket list because it's really cool to see. So, the next place, Burkesville. Since 1999, paranormal investigators have been looking for the ghost of Kelly Kedward, the Blair Witch. Also within the forest, one can find the Coffin Rock. Legend says while members of a search party looking for an 8-year-old girl were combing the woods, they were later found disemboweled and bound at the rock after the girl returned. Soon after, their bodies disappeared. Ugh.
Oh,
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Disemboweled and bound at the rock after.
The Coffin Rock.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oof. Oof. Alright, last one.
Well, Weston, West Virginia. Trans Lunatic Asylum is a famous psychiatric hospital. At one point, the hospital was packed with thousands of patients where inhumane experiences were performed, leading to many deaths. I have a theory that this is the place where some of the monsters came out and some of the stories came out too.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So
I really want to, like, the haunted asylums, that's a good place to go to.
So these next stories, like I said, were from Reddit, and they are quite long, so keep that in mind. But these people claim these stories to be true. We do not, we can't tell you that these stories are true or not, but obviously you believe what you want. We are here just to tell them to you. So, our first story is, I lived in a partially secluded rural countryside, and one midnight, I had woken up and the house behind mine was on fire with the smoke filling the air. I had approached the house within a 15-yard distance, and only people I could see were the residents of the house. So as I'm standing there watching a young woman creep up beside me dressed in a solid white nightgown with long gray hair, I turn my head towards the fire and turn my head back in a split second, then I see that she completely vanished with no trace. I am not one to believe in ghosts, but that was a very supernatural experience.
Ugh, if I saw that, ain't no way I'd be staying there. I'd be running.
Yeah, well,
There's absolutely no way. Someone dressed in white? Well,
that had to be a ghost. There's no way it wasn't a ghost.
no, there's no way. And before we go to the next one, I guess I'll share my personal story. So I went to the Appalachian Mountains a few years ago, and we started in North Carolina, and that's where we stayed. So we did 30 miles. We walked 30 miles within a few days. But regardless, we had to stay the night on the trail with only a few other people, no weapons or anything, obviously. And I remember one night, I could not sleep for the life of me, and it was pouring rain. I remember waking up, and I was like, what the fuck was that noise? I thought it was a bear, but it wasn't, and I was terrified. I didn't even want to look out my sleeping bag. So
Well, what was the noise that was made?
it was like a creaking sound.
A creaking sound?
So,
Like in a house?
no, branches breaking, and obviously I couldn't hear much because it was pouring rain, and it was lightning, but twigs breaking, like someone was stepping on them.
Well, I'm not trying to be rude, but that could have been an animal just walking next to you.
I don't care. It was the Appalachian Mountains. I was scared. And just the energy there. I mean, it's creepy. You always feel like something's watching you.
Well, it is the woods. You're going to be a little creeped out.
I guess so. But either way. Another Reddit story. I went camping by myself one night to clear my head because I had a lot going on at the time. Summer was almost over, so I was trying to enjoy it while I could. I wasn't able to sleep because I felt like someone or something was around. I have one picture from that night. I'll have to see if I can find it, but all you see is 2 red dots about 3 feet off the ground. After that, I refused to leave my hammock. About 3 a.m., I started to hear something moving around. I know how animals sound walking. I'm pretty big into nature, but whatever this creature was, it was up on 2 feet walking about 6 feet away from me. As I was curled up in my hammock, not even attempting to look out, I finally managed to go to sleep.
I don't think I could go to sleep after that.
No.
Just me, though.
Ugh.
So, the next story we have is some friends and I were bored in college one night. And I was borrowing my dad's truck car for my dad's car, jeez. Anyways, for the week, so we decided to drive over to Fondy Mountain in Kentucky, because none of us had been down that road before. It was about 3 a.m. when we got to the top and started coming down the other side. At first we saw what looked like a large cat about the size of a mountain lion, which is pretty common in that area. But it was running through the woods on 2 feet. Oh, that is not uncommon. Jeez.
No.
We drove as fast as we could to get to the next town, which was Clearfield, Tennessee. When you get into the town, there's a street light on either side of the street at the city limit sign. The lights looked like they were flooding back and forth across the road, switching places. So as we drove through the town, we saw 2 men putting what looked like a body bag into the back of a van. At this point, I floored it and found the first open gas station I could find to get directions back.
What the fuck?
That must have been like creepy as hell. Like either that's a coincidence or that's creep. I would have freaked out about that.
Gotta say, first they see something running on 2 legs, they get out of there, and then they see some people putting a damn body bag into a van. I'd be like, am I
in the middle
dreaming?
of the night? Yep, in the middle of the night.
Like, am I dreaming? Is this real? Is this life?
Like, what is going on?
So, the next story is like 2 pages long, so Drew and I are gonna do it together, I should say. So, Bear with us, but this is also a good one. That's why it's so long. It was Thursday and there was no class on Friday, and I wanted to get in bed early so I could go out into the woods and go hiking early tomorrow morning and watch the sun come up. As I jumped off of I-40 onto the exit where my parents live, the night seemed to get darker and none of the animals that I could hear through my rolled down windows made any more noise. The cab of my truck became smaller and smaller, and my breathing quickens. I have never faced any kind of anxiety in my life, but at that moment something felt off, and there was no way I could put my finger on what it was. I came to a stop on the exit ramp, turned to go down the road, and I happened to notice that the gas station off the exit where Mom and Dad live had no lights on. There was a 24-hour truck stop that was there that always had lights on, but I didn't think about it again after noticing. I just chalked it up to the power being out, but I could not shake the feeling that something was definitely askew. I slowly shifted through all of my truck's gears, not wanting to make any more noise than an old pickup already did. I leaned over my steering wheel to look up at the moon through the windshield, and there were barely any stars visible, which was way out of the ordinary. If you've ever been to Appalachia, primarily the populated areas where I was from, you can see the Milky Way on clear nights. An absence of stars back home is only due to cloud cover or whatever in the hell went on this particular night. As I rounded a particularly sharp left-hand curve and chugged through a straight stretch before the next right-hander, I looked at the ancient decaying barn I always gazed at when riding that stretch of road and thought about how long that thing had been there and how many advancements in civilization it had seen. For the split second, my gaze wandered. A very large, sickly-looking dog ran out in front of my truck no more than 10 feet in front of me. Old Betsy was a good truck, but she didn't stop well. Thump, thump. I heard the fence posts I had left in my truck bounce up out of my bed and then back into it as I slid to a stop. My first thought was, oh God, now I have to go tell these neighbors that I ran over their dog. That shit doesn't go real far with people around here. It can really kind of set them off depending on the dog and the person. As I sat there breathing in the smell of burning rubber, something else found its way into my nose. The stench of rotting flesh. It's not a smell you ever forget once you smell it one time. I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. I just chalked it up to some rotting roadkill nearby. Finally, I thought to myself, let me go check and see who this dog belongs to. I pushed my clutch in, shifted to reverse as I looked in my rearview mirror. Illuminated by the haunting glow of my reverse lamps was the same dog, only it wasn't on four legs anymore. It had stood up like a man.
Ugh.
Stop. A man well over 10 feet tall. Only then did it dawn on me that the front of my truck was every bit of 5 feet tall, and this dog was every bit of 5 feet tall at the shoulder on all fours. As it turned its head to look in the direction of my truck, I caught only a glimpse of this creature. It was not a dog, it was not a man, it was somewhere in between, and at the same time entirely separate altogether. Its skin loose hung off of its emaciated and thin frame like a raccoon. Bits of matted fur and dirt and mud clung to its legs like a disease. The right arm seemed a little longer than the left, and they both hung abnormally low in relation to either animal this creature seemed to be.
As it regained its senses, it turned and looked into the mirror like it knew exactly where I was sitting. The face was that of a man's, but a very edge of the face seemed to be not totally defined, but like it seemed to move and change like something you would see at a cellular level on a scientific documentary. There are no eyes, but only sockets where the eyes would have been. No hair, and the skin was dripping off its face was a cold, lifeless gray color. The nose was short and shoved into its face like a bulldog, but the teeth still haunt me. It was definitely carnivorous, and the true form of the rest of its unnatural look, many of the teeth didn't seem to be arranged in a natural way in its mouth. They seemed to fill and spill forth from the indefinable face, almost like they knew the horror they occupied and they were searching for a way out. It stared through my life, into my eyes, and past my soul. It seemed like an eternity, but it could not have been more than 5 seconds as I sat there paralyzed. A light came on in the house next to the road, causing the creature to snap out of its gaze in the direction and tear off into the woods on his back 2 legs, like a man. I jammed my old truck into first gear and roasted the tires all the way through first, snatching second gear and drove as fast as I could home. When I got to the house, both of my parents were asleep. I went downstairs into my bedroom and loaded every firearm I possessed and locked all the doors. I couldn't wake them. Who the fuck would believe that at 10:30 on a Thursday night? The basement was eerily quiet that night. Even their dogs that got up to raise hell at the outside animals of all hours during the night were dead silent. The old post and beam house didn't even creak or pop that night, as was, usual. At about 3 a.m., I started finally to get drowsy. As I went to lay my head down to get some sleep so I could still attempt to go hiking next morning, I smelled the stench of death again. It was faint at first, but it was definitely there. I thought to myself, you're just going crazy. None of that shit was real. But as I dwelt on it, it became more and more noticeable until it filled the entire basement. My dad has a home office in the basement with 2 large glass doors that face the Pazaga National Forest and impenetrable 500,000-acre woods. I finally worked up the courage to walk out of my bedroom and into the basement living room with my little tactical 12-gauge loaded tack light on. I covered the flashlight with my hand so I could not make my presence known until need be, and as I turned right out of the living room into my father's office, I shined the light through the glass doors, and at the edge of the woods there stood the creature. It was motionless. It stared right into the light, unafraid, with those soulless sockets devoid of eyes. I quickly covered my tactical light, ran into the living room, flipped on the outdoor floodlights, into my surprise, it was no longer standing at the edge of the woods, but between the house and the edge of the woods, still motionless. I swung the door open and fired every round I had in its direction. I must have scored a couple of shots because it screeched in an unearthly scream, like that of a woman being slaughtered as it took off into the woods. The dogs went crazy. Mom and Dad woke up asking me what the hell I was doing. I told them that a bear had gotten into the trash and I was scaring it away. And of course they didn't believe me, but I knew they wouldn't believe the truth either. I didn't sleep that night or any time until the following Sunday. Everything seemed to return to normal, and I didn't think about the creature again until I met my wife about 6 years later. Ugh.
I can't
Creepy.
even imagine living. I mean, I see some, not tweets from people, but like on TikTok and stuff, how they say living in the Appalachians is really not that bad. But they also say there's rules to the Appalachian
Yeah, if you go by the
Mountains.
rules of the Appalachian Mountains, you're fine. Example of some of them, don't go outside when it turns dusk. If you hear something outside trying to call your name or get you to go outside, don't go outside.
Yeah.
Close all the blinds when it's nighttime so you don't see anything outside trying to get you to go out there. I mean, it's all simple stuff. If you follow it, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. If you're stupid and you go out looking for stuff, then you're gonna meet your fate, pretty much. Depending, I guess.
Just depends on what you have to deal with.
Deal with? Like creature-wise?
Yeah. If you're a ghost, I mean, you'd be haunted, but you'd be still alive. But it just depends on what's out there trying to get you. And most of the time, it's Wendigo or Skinwalker. Very rarely Bigfoot. I mean, those are the 2 likely culprits you're going to be dealing with out there.
I feel like Bigfoot would not hurt you.
Yeah, you're crazy.
You think it would?
Absolutely, I do.
Well, during the day, I feel like...
Well, you can't find them during the day. They hide in caves. At nighttime, they come out of their caves. And you have to understand, there are orangutans who are smaller than us but can rip us in half.
Oh, yeah.
Bigfoots are bigger than us and could easily rip our heads off. Obviously, they would hurt and destroy us. I don't think they're friendly at all. You can't just walk up to them and be like, "Hi,
Well, yeah.
hi, nice to meet you, Bigfoot." No, bro.
Oh yeah, no, I don't expect don't expect that to happen. I don't think really any creature in the woods at night is going to be friendly, but I mean, you wouldn't catch me out in the woods at night.
Well, unless you're crazy, which me and my buddies used to be until we learned our lesson with a creature that fucked with us. But anyways, that's a story for a different day.
But either way, if you have any theories, stories, legends to share about the Appalachian Mountains, or even if you just live there and you've seen or heard something. We don't even live near the mountains and we've heard shit behind our house in the woods.
No, there's something definitely here. I'm just waiting for it to show itself at this point. But it won't for whatever reason.
I'm not ready for that day to come. Either way, any other thoughts, opinions, comments about the Appalachian Mountains? There's many out there.
And you can go on Reddit and find and look up all the stories, because there's thousands of them. And I believe, me personally, I believe a lot of them is true.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, no sleep on Reddit is creepypasta, but I believe some of the stories on Reddit are true.
Yeah, I definitely think there's creatures out there in the woods, and it's also a very haunted place as well. So you just have to tread lightly if you go hiking out there. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but whew, wouldn't catch me hiking those trails alone. A lot of people do. For 6 months.
Absolutely not. I mean, I do it during the daytime, but at night?
Yeah,
nope.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Never. Unless I'm with one of my boys, or as long as I'm with someone else, like, I'm okay. But if I'm not with someone else, then that's an issue. Because I will not be out there by myself.
Yeah, especially without a weapon.
No, I'm bringing weapons with me either way.
No, absolutely not. Either way, thank you for listening, and any last comments, Drew, about today's episode?
Eventually, I'll tell my story about the creature I had to deal with. It actually got published by this name of a guy named Darkness Prevails. I submitted my story to him, and he published it about 6 years ago. So maybe I'll tell that story to you guys eventually at some point. Eventually. And I might also include, I can call one of my buddies, and he will also tell the story from his perspective and put it in the podcast as well. So we hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, do all the fun things. You can find us on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. Spotify.
iHeartRadio.
We're on iHeartRadio and Amazon. Amazon Podcast, and obviously Podbean.
Everything.
But if you have any comments or questions or anything you want to put in the comments for us, definitely put that down there. If you guys want to make us cover a certain story, or like stories from Reddit, or any I don't know, just anything that you guys want us to cover, just let us know in the comments.
And we will see you next week on The Night Crew.
So, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at The Night Crew. That is capital T, and then HE, capital NITE, capital KREW. That is The Night Crew. Thank you guys. We really appreciate all of your help and all of your support. And we will see you next week. Thank you, and have a good day.